Okay, here we go. Awesome. So welcome to the Hospitality Sales Masterclass. You all made it. Wonderful, wonderful. I am thrilled to have each of you here with us. I just want to, everybody's been so positive and exciting. Amy and Jay, you did a post on Facebook and I really appreciate it. And Lindsay, you followed up with me yesterday to make sure that everything's going. And I just want to take a few moments. How many of you feel like last month was last year? Just so much has happened in such a short period of time, right? It's just mind-boggling how much has happened. And I was, very excited because I've spent a lot of time to put the course together and finally got my stride with the webinar and the script and everything, and felt really good about sales. I've talked to a couple of you, and a couple of you were like, hey, even if I pay it out of my own pocket, I'm going to go ahead and go, even with this stuff happening. And then that was 3 weeks ago. And then in that week, I was having conversations and people were, I'm going to be furloughed at the end of the week. I'm going to be furloughed at the end of the day. And then I started to call people that participated in the webinar, and businesses were suspending operations. And I got those out of office messages. So it's been a really interesting thing. And I'm glad that I have that adaptability and that we're all here. And as I shared with you, I'm just looking for an investment of your time. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. And kind of the rules of conduct, so to speak, for us here is I'd like to, I'm going to move us over a little bit so that I can read this all out. Our commitment contract, I'm going to read this out loud for you, but I commit to show up fully for the duration of the Hospitality Sales Masterclass. This includes doing everything in the hospitality, whoops, I forgot sales masterclass there. I was doing that this morning, typo. Watching every lesson and completing each fun sheet to the best of my ability. I further commit to excellent self-care. And I actually swiped this from a coach that I work with, and I thought this couldn't be more appropriate for the time that we're currently in. I commit to quality self-care, getting quality sleep, staying hydrated, moving my body. The more I care for myself, the more love and compassion I have to share with others. I commit to bringing an open mind, a generous heart, and my fullest and best effort to this experience. So as I want to get to know each other before we go on. So if I'm going to just call out your name, and if you could introduce yourself and say where you are in the industry, and what's going on, that would be great, because I'd like us to become this exclusive community over the next 4 weeks together. So Amy, could you start and introduce yourself and tell us what your experience is in the hospitality and what's going on with you, even with the pandemic and shelters in place?
Yeah, absolutely. So happy to be here. So thanks, Michelle, for including me. So I'm a senior group sales manager with the Hollywood Roosevelt, and in a temporary layoff, which is, I guess, maybe coming up to the end of the 3rd week, roughly. And I've been with the Hollywood Roosevelt only since the beginning of January. So it's, a brand new hotel for me, new job, the whole thing. So shortly after being there 2 months, getting laid off was kind of tough. And also pretty tough because for 7 months of 2019, I was in a laid off situation as well. So I had just been back to work for 2 months and then had it happen again. But keeping a positive attitude and really hoping that it's not going to be too long to get back to the Roosevelt and kind of dive in. Prior to the Hollywood Roosevelt, I was with Belmont El Encanto, which is a small property in Santa Barbara, and I was there for 5 years. And then way before that was with Ritz-Carlton Hotels for close to 14 years.
Wonderful. And Amy, how do you feel about the commitment contract? Are you in? Amy froze a little bit. Let's see if she unfreezes. Jay,
Yeah,
oh,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I got a little pop-up that said my internet connection's not very good. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Sometimes it helps. I don't know if you have anything running behind the screen. Powering all that down helps with your internet connection. So if you've got, something else running, it helps to close all those things out. Thanks,
Okay.
Amy.
Okay.
Jay, can you share with us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Jay Salcedo. I'm currently a sales manager for the Anaheim Majestic Garden Hotel, also known as the Castle Hotel, just across the street from Disneyland in Anaheim. My markets are government and association. I've been with the hotel for about 1.5 years now. Prior to that, very heavy operations background in hospitality, hotels, resorts, stuff of that nature. Prior to the Majestic Garden, I was the assistant general manager and then became the general manager of the Sheraton Fairplex. Prior to that, I was the rooms director for 4 different resorts with Club Med all around the world. So I got the chance to travel a little bit, and but coming back to Anaheim over the last 1.5 years, it's been great because that's where my career pretty much started. I am definitely on board and committed to this contract. I think ever since I met Michelle, I've known of this, and I've known that she was building this and creating this, and I have been really on top of her. Please, Michelle, tell me when. I want to do this. I've been so excited just because I feel even when I got into this industry, I had a passion and this burn, this fire that I was so excited to be a part, and I haven't felt that in a long time up until going into the sales side. And, between my market where I'm at, it's so exciting, always hustle and bustle, everything's happening, and my hotel and my involvement with, the associations and Calisay, and now with Michelle, this fire is back. And so I want to bring that to this group and bring what I learned, hopefully, to elevate not only what I do at the hotel, but hopefully in our industry we could share this, and make this like fire, as you could say.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jay. Lindsay, how are you, my friend? I look forward to hearing your voice. Can you share with us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your thoughts with regard to the commitment contract?
Sure. So I'm here in North Dakota. I work for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I just passed, February was 2 years, so still fairly new to destination marketing. Before joining the CVB, I worked at our event center as a sales and event coordinator. So have some experience with the events on a facility side, but like I said, still fairly new on the destination marketing side. So very excited to learn, be part of a group with some experienced people to help maybe give me some tips and tricks along the way here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lindsay. Tommy, how are you, my friend? We'd love to hear your voice and share with us a little bit about your background and your thoughts with regard to our commitment contract with the Hospitality Sales Masterclass.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tommy Fuller, hailing from San Francisco, where I've been in the industry for almost 30 years, working in just a vast array of every department. I started off as an engineer with Hyatt Fisherman's Wharf and worked my way up through the ranks of convention services, concierge, front desk, doorman, bellman, every position except for a cook, which being a soccer player, I would devour everything so the kitchen would never let me in there. I currently hold court at the Hilton Hotels of Anaheim, which comprise of the DoubleTree and the Embassy Suites in Orange County. And I am currently furloughed and looking to get back into the swing of things ASAP. We have recently closed one of our hotels, which is the Embassy Suites, and trying to move everyone over to the DoubleTree to keep that afloat. And I am looking forward to learning more. I believe I've met Jay before in person. And other than that, I've known Michelle Murphy for quite some time. So I'm excited about this and I commit to the contract.
Thank you. Thank you, Tommy. And Carolyn, if you could tell everybody in the group a little bit about you and your commitment to the contract.
Well, I'll start with the commitment. I'm committed.
Thank you.
That, and I'm delighted to help be a part of your first class, and like others have seen you work hard in the early stages of developing this, and so I'm really proud of you and pleased to be able to be a part of this. So the degree that I can lend my expertise, awesome, and always wanting to be the proverbial learner. I'm glad to be able to set some time aside to continue to grow in a new way. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
My background, I'm currently a national sales director for Los Angeles Tourism and Convention Board. So it's nice to see Amy on board, and a fellow bureau person in Lindsay. And Tommy, I'm sure when I was Hyatt National Sales, I watched that Fisherman's Wharf property open, and Bob from Hyatt Sacramento went down, I think, as a rooms exec at the time. So I feel like I've interwoven on many occasions with several of the people on this call.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, welcome everybody. And I don't know that I necessarily have to say this because of the fact that we're on furlough, and I know that some of us are working. Carolyn, I know that you are one of the folks that is working. Lindsay, I'm not sure if you're working or not, but it sounds like you might be in. But if you could, for yourselves and for us, just take a moment to power everything down, silence your phones, and it also helps with the speed of your internet, not your connection. If you go ahead and anything that's behind the scenes, emails, Facebook, all that stuff, power it down, that would be great. So before I start to tell you a little bit about myself, I want to share with you the Facebook group. Let me go up here. So this is the Facebook group, and I look forward to having each of you join it. What you'll see is as you scroll down, I will do video recordings of each of the calls. So these are from when I did the beta group in September of last year. I don't feel that it's necessary because I've developed so much even in the webinar since then. If you want to watch these, you're welcome to. Some of the content's even changing a little bit as I go. But I don't feel that these are necessary for you to watch. When I record this one, I would encourage you to watch it again, because adult learning is all about repetition. What I do want you to take the time to watch are any of them that have this Hospitality Sales Masterclass. These are all of the bonus interviews that you get with other site selection professionals. We have 5 of them listed here. I have a couple of more to put on, but I would love for you to, between now and the next class, listen to 2 or 3 of these. If you have the time and you're done binge watching on Netflix, then go ahead and look at all of them. But, you know, if you could do 2 or 3 before the next class, they're approximately 20 minutes long, that would be great. And before the next class, or even as we conclude today's call, if you could become a member of the Facebook group, that would be great. Is there anybody on the call that isn't on Facebook? Because I did have someone in the beta group that wasn't on Facebook. Is there anybody who's not on Facebook? I'm getting everybody's on Facebook. Okay, that's great. So I just wanted to share that with you. And let me go back to, oh, whoops, play from current slide. So a little bit about me. Most of you know me, but I started my hotel career when I started at a no-name property, but I don't put it up there. But in this no-name property, I learned about Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. And I was with Wyndham Hotels and Resorts for about 4.5 years. And I worked at several different properties. I worked at the, I started at limited service property in Phoenix, and then I was promoted and transferred to Detroit, Michigan, director of sales as another garden property, and then I relocated to San Diego, and I worked with a lot of different segments as far as group goes. That's when I actually did more of my group business. When I was with the first properties in Phoenix and in Detroit, I was working more BT types of groups. And then from Wyndham, I went on to Starwood Hotels and Resorts. And at Starwood Hotels and Resorts, as I shared, I was with the Wyndham, I went from the Wyndham to the Westin. There's actually 2 Westins now in downtown San Diego. One of them used to be a Wyndham. The other one has been a Westin, and that was the first Starwood property that I went to. And while I was there, it was kind of interesting because that's 6 months after I joined Starwood at the Westin, that's when a lot of the acquiring started to happen. And that's when Starwood acquired both Sheraton and Westin hotels. And they had, 3 CEOs, 3 direct vice presidents of operations, 3 vice presidents of sales. And they, figured out who was going to be in charge of Starwood in its totality and slimmed all that down. 2 national sales teams. Oh, it looks like, hold on. Let me see. Let me stop share for just a minute and make sure that we don't have, okay. Go back to my screen share. I just want to make sure that I don't have, because I enabled the waiting room. I've got it. I'm getting used to my technology. So with, they did this thing called a cluster. And I use that word intentionally because usually cluster has another adult word that follows it. And I'm going to try to refrain from using adult language here just because I want to be professional. I was excited that I, got my hair and makeup on. I get what I call camera ready for you all. The fact of the matter is the technology didn't support it, and the teams were still segregated. Even though we were all put together, they were real segregated. And within 9 months, the cluster fell apart because it just didn't work. It worked in theory, didn't work in practice. And then I went to a limited service property called it was Marriott Suites, but it was under Starwood management and Starwood owned, and eventually became a Sheraton Suites before I left. And I don't know why this, okay. And then I went to Intercontinental Hotels for a short period of time. I was there for a year with Staybridge Hotels, which is an extended stay property. And as I went through my hotel career, what I really learned is that I really wanted to develop deep relationships with my clients and have the ability to not ever have to say no to them. So I jumped from the hotel side after 13 years in hotel sales to the site selection side, and I joined Helms Briscoe. And in 2005 is when I joined Helms Briscoe. And my client portfolio at its peak was 30 clients, and those 30 clients placed 400 meetings a year. Those 400 meetings a year were worth 20,000 room nights, and I have negotiated over 5,000 contracts since my inception of doing site selection and being a site selection professional. And that's where I'm blending what I learned as a hotel sales professional and walking in those shoes, and then oh, I'm learning how my little system works here. And then my 14 years of being on site selection. So what I learned when I started with Helms Briscoe, because of my client base was a lot of state government agencies and state associations. And specifically the state government agencies, when I started in 2005 with Helms Briscoe, some of the state per diems were $84 in the state of California. And needless to say, those rates fit better at some limited service hotels. And a lot of limited service hotels didn't even know who Helms Briscoe was. So I was educating them on Helms Briscoe and how to, okay, I'm sorry, I'm just getting used to when these little buttons come up. So with Helms Briscoe, I started to get these questions and I started to educate people. And what I share in the simplest terms is the value proposition for all of you on this, in this hospitality sales masterclass is the same as it is for our clients. It's about working smarter versus working harder. In a nutshell, that's what it is. So I just wanted to, I know most of you know some of my background, but as I said, I'm all about adult learning and repetition is key to that. And the site selection professional mindset is what we're going to concentrate on here today. How I started to recognize what happened, as I shared in the webinars, I took a online training course, Zoom, structured very similar to what it is that I'm doing here with you. Content's different, but the structure is very similar, to learn how to put this all together. And I did market research with over 30 hospitality sales professionals to find out what the major fears, concerns, and frustrations were in working with this. And I've also done a lot of presentations to future Avery Murphy rock stars. And what I've realized is that understanding our mindset is something that's unique. And let me say, one of the things that comes out that I share when I'm talking to potential future Avery Murphy rock stars is, when I was with Helms Briscoe, people would say to me when they would get a lead, they would say to me, "Hey, Michelle, I work with Sally from Helms Briscoe, so I know exactly how you work." Actually, I'll use names that have done interviews. Like, I work with Monica Pla, so I know exactly how you work. Or I work with Dean Tompkins, so I know exactly how you work. I know Dean obviously well enough, he did an interview. I know Monica well enough, she did an interview. I know Christine Smirko well enough, she did an interview. Pat Zolman, I know well enough. She actually trained me and gave me my starting point on how to do contracts. And all of those people are top producers with Helms Briscoe. All of those people do their businesses differently. You could put 100 Helms Briscoe associates in a room and each of them does their business differently. So when you're talking to a Helms Briscoe associate, it's a normal thing to connect and say, "Hey, I've worked with so-and-so at Helms Briscoe, so I know how you work." It's not an illogical conclusion to draw, but one of the first things I want to share with you is, because everybody's an independent contractor, you get the tools and you get recommendations on how to do things, but then you build your business and you go about doing it. And what we do is we do site selection and contract negotiations. So the Helms Briscoe associates all do that differently. I'm pretty certain the same is true with Conference Direct. I'm pretty certain the same is true for Experian. All the independent contractors, they do that. Each one does it differently. HPN, I believe, has a different business model, so their site selection might be different. Avery Murphy, one of the ways that we differ in the marketplace is we do have a recipe for how we do site selection. So when someone works with an Avery Murphy associate and they say, hey, I've worked with Christina Hake with Avery Murphy, to Annette Eckel with Avery Murphy, that's actually a true statement, but that's really rare in our industry. So we dived in a little bit on the webinar of taking the leap of faith and what, consider that you go into your bosses when you're done being furloughed and you go back to work, decide, depending on what you decide to do, when you go back to work and you say, hey, I've had a change of heart. I've kept in touch with some of the clients that I have great relationships with. And I'm going to use Avery Murphy as an example because it's the easiest one for me to use. And you say, you know what? I decided I'm going to get on the site selection side. So for this, I want you to take that exercise and consider for a moment that you are interviewing with me to become an Avery Murphy rock star. It's the next logical step to up-level your career. You've already given the notice. You're already furloughed. So that's easy. And I kind of joke here because this was pre-COVID-19. You might have taken some vacation time or at least a weekend off. Well, hey, we've had a little bit more than vacation and a weekend off, right? Okay. So day one, you're excited, you're enthusiastic, you're like, woo, 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 I can't wait to do this. That's very exciting. And you are eager and you're learning and you're going through all the training and it's very exciting. And you're probably reaching out to some clients as you learn things, when you're first getting started. And some of it's going to be positive. Some of it's going to be literally frustrating. So to give you an idea, Avery Murphy, the first thing that we have a very simple business plan. And the first thing in it is that you call all of your contacts in your address book from A to Z. And the reason that I have everybody do it is I started when I was with Helms Briscoe. I started to call people that I had worked with that I had conversations with even before I joined Helms Briscoe. Hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Would you join me if I came? But that wasn't enough business to pay my bills. Okay. So I started working the phone and I tripped over myself so much. It was incredible. I would get someone on the phone. I was talking to a potential client and I just what came out of my mouth sounded like the Peanuts teacher. Wah, 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 wah. And I thought to myself, my goodness, Michelle, this is really difficult. So I started to call my friends and family just because I wanted to kind of grease the wheel. And I started to tell them what I did. I even called grandma. I even called my Aunt Mary. I called my Uncle Bill. I called my cousin Betty. And I started to tell them what I did so that I could get used to my spiel, right? So I could kind of get my elevator pitch. And then when I got comfortable with that, then I started to go back and call clients again and tell them what it was that I did. So you can hear how you start and you're really excited. And the service that we offer is complimentary to our clients. It doesn't cost our clients anything. It saves them time. It saves them money. It doesn't cost them anything. We should have people lined up around the block working with us. And yet that's not necessarily the case because we face certain objections in our business. So at about 9 months, you've had some successes and you might start to see your first money. So in the webinar I shared with you, you hit it hard the first 30 days, the first 60 days, the first 90 days, and you've started to get some clients that you'll get those successes, that early low-hanging fruit, the people that that you've had industry relationships with forever, that they're going to make the leap with you. And if you're lucky in that first 30, 60, 90 days, those people actually have open RFPs that you can source for them. So you go source those RFPs for them. And so let's take current time instead of future time. So a new Avery Murphy rock star joins us today. They can get clients, but with what's going on with the shelter in place and the pandemic, we don't know if hotels are going to be open for business. You know, I'm hearing August, you know, between June and August, hotels are going to start to come back on. But is the demand in the marketplace going to start to ramp up? And are the hotels going to be fully staffed and ready to take everybody on? So, you know, the earliest programs that we might book if we were to start today would be in September and October. And then when those programs book, then you have to wait till they consume so that you can get the pickup, and then you invoice them. And then after you invoice them, then you wait another 30 to 45 days to see money. So you start out very enthusiastic, but you're 9 months in before you see your first paychecks, right? Even, you know, I was 4 months in before I started to see a first paycheck. And that's part of the reason why I started to work with state government agencies, is because they consumed in a shorter period of time. Prior to this pandemic, a lot of people would work with corporate business because, as you know, from your businesses, corporate business was booking in a shorter time window. So you might have gotten that. But after things like this, corporate business is going to be the first thing that's going to be the last thing that comes on board fully. The first things that are going to come on board fully are going to be the associations because of how they're funded. And then government business is still doing business because we need our government to help us get through this pandemic. So, you know, 9 months, you're starting to see money. And it takes about 18 months before that money starts to be steady coming in. So when you are talking to a site selection professional, and they're less than 2 years into doing their business, that's their mindset. They're hustling. They're hustling big time. And they're working hard, but they aren't getting paid for their work yet. So think about that mindset as you start working with people. The other thing that I want to talk about at this time is, because you guys are such a great group and I've gotten to know most of you a little bit, the only two I haven't gotten to know as well are Amy and Lindsay. And Amy and Lindsay, you have been so delightful to speak with and correspond with during email. You're both so warm. I feel like I know you well enough that I can say something that's going to be sensitive. So before the pandemic and COVID-19, which has impacted our entire industry, we had the commission disruption. And the commission disruption impacted all third parties. It even hit the Helms Briscoes, the conference directs, and Experian might be, it hit Experian. It didn't hit American Express because their business model isn't 100% commission. But when we were talking to the hospitality professionals, you know, depending on what type of hotel that you were at and how strict your hotel was being at that time, it was difficult for you to say, you know, what we got a lot of from hospitality sales professionals was, it's a business decision. And your mindset coming out of COVID-19 when you're talking to your third parties, I just want to have you guys set up for success, is we are extremely empathetic. We are extremely empathetic, but we are not sympathetic. The reason we're not sympathetic is some of you have been furloughed. Well, some associates, and I don't want to go into the politics of this, but some associates, because of those commission disruptions, no longer had, you know, that wasn't enough to sustain them. So they had to change out of the career. Some of us, depending on what our portfolios were, took a 30% pay cut. So we're empathetic to everyone that has been furloughed or laid off and taken a pay cut. When you go back, I know people from being on Facebook and stuff, when people go back, they're going back and they're taking pay cuts. So we're, again, very empathetic because we know that. For us, you know, in the webinar, I talked about standing out. The emails that we're getting inundated with is people being sympathetic. I want to make sure you're okay because I know that your businesses have been impacted. I would suggest to you that it might be better to be empathetic when you speak to your site selection professionals and say, wow, now I understand how the commission disruption impacted you, because now I've started to feel how that's impacted me. And I want to, because this is interactive, I want to see how that feels to you and if you can understand that nuance. So when this happened for us, we're not as shocked as you think we might be. You know, yes, it's been a hassle to cancel and or postpone programs for our clients. But and the cancellations and the postponements, we're not seeing money. We haven't really hit not seeing money yet because of everything that consumed in April, February and April. We're just now getting payments on. It's the end of April and May that we're going to see the money stop. And then it won't start again. It's going to take time for the money to ramp up. If we start booking business again in July, August, September, we won't be seeing those monies until September, October, November. So we're going to go this period, but we're familiar with this and we've already experienced what this is like when we went through the commission disruption. So I'd like to hear from you how, if that's something that you've considered, if that's new, how that shifts your mind as you start working with your site selection professionals going forward. Who would like to start?
Well, I have an example. This is Jay.
Okay.
And this was a complete shock, of course. I didn't even know. I went to work on Monday the 16th, and that evening got a call saying we're shutting the hotel tonight. And it was kind of abrupt. I didn't even get a chance to reach out to anybody or say anything. My email was cut. I mean, literally, I'm going off of my memory trying to contact people via LinkedIn. One of my groups with HPN, we had that pending, and I just got the invoice to get paid for the commissions. And I reached out to my boss and said, look, I understand we're closing, but I know that accounting is still in and that you're still going to be there. Can we, exactly what you said, I said, can we do right by them and just, you know, at least them, that program has already come to fruition. It's already passed. Can we just pay this off? It's, you know, it was split. So it was only $2,000. It wasn't the full amount. It was only $2,000. I said, you know, we've already received payment for the program. Can we just push this through instead of waiting until we get back? Luckily, we were able to. So that's, you know, that was one of the things I thought about is, you know, I understand there's going to be some unfinished business going back in, but, you know, at that point, you know, I wanted to make sure, you know, I had a promise with not only the client, but also HPN as my extended client, and let them know, you know, I am going to push to get this done. This is the last piece of our business for this program. So I want to get this off my plate and paid to you in a timely manner so that we're not waiting, like you said, until August or whenever we get back to the office. So yeah, that's an example of that, and I totally understand that. And I've got more programs that are coming up in the future, and I'm just thinking about, okay, how can now that you've opened my eyes to that, how can I be instead of sympathetic, how can I be more empathetic to
Okay.
our clients?
Wonderful.
think
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. Go
in
ahead.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
I was just going to say, in the bureau world, it's a delicate balance for us because we're not necessarily in the power seat to drive the decision that a property is going to make in terms of how they'll manage through that cancellation process. But we are certainly a valuable resource in that what had occurred with a third-party client of mine, our site selection professional, who had a program that's heavily funded really by the program itself, one of those more association oriented, where it's not a professional association, but it's more of a meeting, a conference, and so it's self-supporting. So if there's no meeting, there's no money. And so she was in a position of having to look at rescheduling or canceling her May program with one of our hotels. And the position I took with her was one of honoring her trust in me. She reached out to me before the hotel to get some advice or guidance. And the role I took was one of an industry professional and got her websites from MPI or links about what was going on in the industry in regard to the force majeure and various topics, so that she could find herself more informed and consider different options to present to the hotel, so that she felt more prepared, really, I guess, to just work with the hotel rather than feeling completely vulnerable. So that was an example of a situation I had, and she's her own site selection, third-party shingle, person. She's all on her own out there and doesn't necessarily have a large book of clients. And she was super appreciative. And then we also had a link on our website about changes in the industry, COVID related, that is constantly being updated. And so I sent her that link as well. And then we kept in touch, and eventually she first canceled. And then within about 3.5 weeks, has just come back now and said, you know what, I've been working with the hotel. We've got new dates for 2021, and I'm so excited. And she looped us back in.
Wonderful, wonderful. Any Tommy, I don't know what's in the private message. I tried to turn my laptop on so that I can watch it. So Tommy, if you could talk to us and let me know if it's okay, if there's something I need to look at. I don't know if I turn my camera off on my desktop and I look at it, if everybody sees it. But Tommy,
I can stand here, and my little 2 cents on this is I've always been mindful of third parties during my entire career. I've always gone to bat. I've known many people that are on the Helms Briscoe, Commerce Direct, third-party sides. I go to extreme lengths to make sure timely payments are made to them. Even had the opportunity to work with hotel brands that will pay the 5% before and 5% after. So there is some money coming in beforehand. I'm a big proponent of that. I also set my own reminders to make sure that after the completion and payment of a program that we expedite payments to third party or whoever else is helping me to secure this business, as that third party are my client just as their client. So I treat third parties like my client, and I dote on them and treat them equally, because without them and without the others, we all don't come to a full circle. So I coveted my relationships and make sure I take care of my third party planners, as well as the corporate, as well as the association. I just make sure that I'm above board and I have my business ethics all in tune with that.
Wonderful. Amy or Lindsay, do either of you want to chime in?
I'll chime in to kind of continue on something that Tommy had mentioned, and that's, once a contract is signed with with the third party or whoever signs that contract, but the third party brought the business to you, to do that first 5% or that first whatever is decided or whatever is part of that contracting process. And and sometimes internally at the hotel, maybe with accounting or whomever, you're having to sell that to your internal team. Like, yes, we do need to do this for the third party because, and explain what we've just kind of been talking about, that, they're out. And so they're not going to get something for, my gosh, now we're talking about potentially like 14 months or something. And as we all know, we're so much into the relationship building that that's just another little piece to the puzzle about building that relationship to really show that third party that you're committed to them. And, sometimes it's not easy to get the approval internally, unfortunately. Even if it is, part of a more, part of a contract that's, with the, your parent company. Let's say it's, I'm thinking, when I was with the property in Santa Barbara, it was, a Belmont contract with whoever it might have been, Helms Briscoe or something, where that first part of the commission was going to be paid. So there's kind of that part of it as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Lindsay, I saw in the chat that she might have had to step away for a second. And so if you want to add in, that's great, but I want to keep us sort of on time here. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Whoops. Let me escape. I didn't mean to lose you all. Let me go back into screen share. That would help. Okay. And I went too far. Okay. So part of what we're doing here is I want to set this up, this is going to be our mastermind. Okay. This is our mastermind for everyone. And how we're going to work this is there's homework. So we're going to go into the homework section of what it is that we're going to do. And now this is previous, and I want to keep this because I've got my eye on past shelter in place and the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm cognizant of it, but the reason we're doing this is to be part of the group that's forward thinking, so that when we get back into our roles and are on property, that we are armed and ready and can hit the ground running. So here are some email subject lines to consider for an RFP that's active. I've shared these on the webinar, but again, adult learning, and then you get these slides. I will post these slides on the Facebook group so that you can see this. But where are you in the sales process with this particular client meeting? How can I make you look good to this client? May I learn more about you and your hot buttons? Because actually, as a couple of you have said, is that you guys are the elite in your industry, because you do view your third parties and site selection professionals as clients. As such, you want to learn their hot buttons, and the more that you learn their hot buttons, then it's easier for us, the third party, to communicate with you things about our clients. And let's just take simple things. As you watch the interviews with the top producing site selection professionals, there's one on there, Brett. Brett is an email guy. Brett does so much on email that he's invited people to his wedding from an email relationship, okay? On the flip side, you have Alex. And Alex is like Michelle. We're phone people. I don't do a lot of writing. There's, they say not to be dependent on PowerPoint. I'm not dependent on PowerPoint. It struggles for me to even come up with slides because I like to just talk. Like I can't figure out how to put it in words for you all. So, start with easy hot buttons like that. What is your preferred communication style? I know it sounds 101, but that's where I'm just giving you some direction on that. So here's email subject lines without an RFP. Help needed, please. I was shocked, and I got this. I spent more time than I did money to learn how to put all of this stuff together for you all. But when I did the market research, I did help needed, and that's how I got so many people. Like so many people responded to that. So I just wanted to know what that is. I wanted to let you know it's really effective. I've tested it. It was super effective. Would like to work with you again when COVID-19 is behind us. Future pace this. May I learn more about you and your hot buttons? Again, that can be your subject line for even when you have an RFP or when you don't have an RFP. So I want to start giving you scripts and things that you can actually tangibly take away from. And now we're going to go into the homework. And these are questions to be asked over the phone. I couldn't find the bold button, so I apologize that I have phone caps there and I'm screaming at y'all. But let's see, do I have everybody here? I do have everybody here. Okay, good. So let me go back. So you are going to find 10 site selection professionals that you work with, okay, or have worked with. You want to ask them these questions because this is going to be your qualified list of third parties that you can reach out to. These are questions that we will answer. I won't tell you, I mean, I could tell you, some of my clients that I've worked with, but see, I hesitate to even do it here. It's like asking me my investment portfolio. Like you wouldn't dream of asking anybody about their investment portfolio. You might ask someone who their investment advisor is. You might ask them, have they done an annuity, or are they in stocks? Are they in bonds? But you wouldn't really start to ask them what they're investing in, right? So when you're talking to a third party and you're asking them about their portfolio, these are vanilla things that will give you, but they'll give you a lot of information. So how many clients do you work with? Notice I told you at my peak, I worked with 30 individual clients. How many meetings do those clients place annually? As I shared with you, at my peak, those clients placed over 400 meetings annually. You'll see when you just watch one interview so that you can see how this happens. Because each of the people that I interviewed had to answer the top 3 questions that we're doing right here. And then the third question is, what are the total number of room nights that those meetings consume annually? And as I shared with you on my peak, it was 20,000 annual room nights. Here's where you're going to be beneficial. And this is where the masterminding is going to be impactful for all of you. Then you want to ask them, what are the top destinations your clients select? So for instance, Monica Pla, her clients are primarily international clients. She's located here in Southern California. Jay and Tommy and Carolyn, you might all invite her. And yeah, Amy, you might invite Monica to an event as well because she's located and she's with Helms Briscoe and she's a Masters Club producer. But her clients are primarily booking internationally. Wouldn't you like to know which of the Helms Briscoe associates are actually booking into Southern California? And so that's why we want to ask them the top destinations that they're booking. So, my client portfolio primarily books the state of California. And then second to that would be North America. And depending on what clients I've been working with, I can tell you what cities that they're primarily booking. And we want to get those destinations. And then the next thing you want to ask them is what's your business mix of clients? What percentage of your clients are corporate? What percentage of your clients are association? What percentage are government? And what percentage are SMRF? And I will put together an Excel spreadsheet that you guys can use, that you can put to post the answers to these questions. It'll be like first name, last name, if they're the name of their organization, if they're an independent, like Brett's an independent hotel lobbyists. We've got a couple of Helms Briscoe associates, and we've got a couple more independents. So you would put their name, and then you would answer how many clients. In my case, it would be 30. How many meetings do they place a year? 400. What's the total number of room nights of those meetings consume? 20,000. What are the top destinations your clients book? California. What's the percentage mix of business? Mine is about 50% government, 30% association, 15% corporate, and 5% SMRF. And how this is going to help you when all of you do this, when all of you do your 10, is let's do right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 people on the call with us right now. We had a total of 6. Now you have, depending if there's not crossover, but you know, there's over 6,000 site selection professionals out there, according to North Star, when I go to the independent IPEC, Independent Planner Education Conference. Also learned that there's about over 6,000 independent contractors from CVent. So that's how many of us are out there. Rather than just saying, I want to work with so-and-so because they're located in my marketplace, they may not book your marketplace. Or let's say your market is, Jay, your market's association. If you're talking to a third party and their whole portfolio is corporate, they're not going to be someone, as much as you like them and everything, they're not going to be somebody that you would personally work with. So what I want you guys to have is this list that you can say, oh, these are the site selection professionals that are booking into my market, whether it's vertical or geographic. Any questions on this? Okay. And let me go. So 10 calls completed by next Wednesday, April 15th, and then posted onto the Facebook group. See what we got going on in the chat. Okay.
What do you
Sorry.
mean post it on the Facebook group?
Posted on the closed Facebook group.
I'm sorry, I had to click off because I got my sound cut at one point during the intro, and I think you were doing that Facebook. So are you saying we literally like put our little sales call sheet in a sense? Each answer for each call is its own entry on the Facebook?
No, I'm going to forward you an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
And and then you will post that onto the Hospitality Sales Masterclass Facebook group.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And let me go back to my screen share. And that's it. Like I said, watch a couple, make those phone calls. You're going to have lots to talk to people about. It'll be interesting. You know, I would also start the conversation. How many clients are canceling? How many clients are postponing? You know, that would be sort of my warm up on this. Talk about what you're doing, how, you know, how you're being proactive, and that's it. I didn't go too much over. Yay me. We started a little bit late, so we kept it within an hour. I told you I'd keep it within an hour. You guys are an excellent group. I am so thrilled to have you with me. I can't wait until next week when we go over all of this. I will post a recording of this so that you can see it all. I know, Carolyn, you had to jump off a couple of times. And we lost our friend Lindsay, but Lindsay can come back and see it. And there were a few people that didn't join us today, so hopefully they can get caught up and watch the video and be started with us next week. Any closing thoughts before I tell you all to stay healthy and be groovy? We're good? Okay. Stay healthy,
good.
everyone. Be
You too.
groovy.
Take care, everyone. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome, Tommy. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well.